I think many people in today's world do not take responsibility for their own actions, for their livelihoods, their children, and many other things. They seem to just look for some other outsider like the government to solve their problems. Uh, it kind of leads to a couple of questions I wanted to ask for today. What are the ramifications of individuals not taking responsibility for themselves and their actions?
Well, the person who does not take responsibility for his or herself actions um, usually present right away the lack of the growth, because that's pretty much what it is. The responsibilities or lack of there, it affects the person's life, the particular person's life, usually right at the beginning. And it's kind of, if you look at the bag, through the life at the beginning, when we are small kids, we don't have any responsibility because there is somebody else who is watching us all the time, our parents.
Right.
And they ensure that actually right things can happen. And then also they protect us from the negative things. However, once, we grow up and become the adults eventually, at that point, we should have those responsibilities, already engraved
Yeah.
in our lives. Otherwise, we're going to hurt ourselves. We definitely do, because there is no one to protect us anymore. I mean, there is God, of course, watching for us every day. However, He cannot correct our mistakes done because we lack, the responsibilities.
Yeah. No, it's actually good you brought up the parents, because yeah, there's a lot of people, who have this kind of very, very sheltered life, and when they grow a little older, uh, they they most of their life they were kind of almost like spoon fed, right? Guided on this exactly on what to do, and they were told, oh, you got to clean up your room, you got to do all this, right? And when they finally have even a little bit of a semblance of, okay, here's some independence, they're not used to taking responsibility for their own actions. And I've seen it a lot where people, they have trashy rooms, or they don't take care of themselves. Uh, they look like trash,
Yeah.
to put it simply. Um,
Why do you think is that? I think is such a common problem in young people.
um, and this is probably that's not the right answer, but I honestly think it might have something to do with just the society here. It's, this is a first world country, and
Mhm.
so many of these kids, they don't experience hardship, right? Which hardship strengthens somebody. It teaches somebody, to do the right thing, as much as we don't want to endure hardship. And because they live this very, very sheltered life, they
Mhm.
don't get the experience to actually, you know, take look over their own actions, and they kind of just assume I can just keep doing the same
Mhm.
things I was doing when I was a kid, and it'll all just kind of work out in the end. And that could also be maybe a little bit of laziness involved, but I just think it's also because they lived such a sheltered life, they were never they never experienced any setbacks or any struggle, and that's given them this very, very false confidence that they can just kind of snooze through, and everything will just kind of work out.
Mm-hmm.
That's
But
what I
it's
think. I'm not sure if that's if
yeah, it
that's
is. It is. So I would pinpoint it. It start again, back, with the parents, and it's parents' responsibility teach the kids hardworking skills, or not just the hardworking, just a life skills, life important, jobs, duties they're supposed to do, and the consequences if they don't do that. And obviously, since the parents don't do that, they don't teach their kids. Well, the parents are actually lacking responsibilities as well on
yeah.
their own. There's no question about it. You know,
They have a
so
duty, right, to
yeah,
teach their
yeah. Well,
kids correctly.
the very first teachers, and therefore the most important teachers, are the parents. It's not in the schools. It's not the colleges. It's not the government. Not the social programs. It's not any of these. Not even grandparents, really. I mean, when you really think about it, not even anybody outside of the immediate family. It's the parents. And I know it was not exactly the question about it, but I kind of segue into the parenthood. But that's the reason why both parents, mother and the father, are so important, for the kids, for proper growing, because each of them can provide only certain thing in a teaching. Not all of them, because mothers and fathers got specific jobs.
Right. And that could be a whole rabbit hole we can discuss in the future. But let's take it a little bit back to the topic of responsibility. So, if someone is dependent, let's say they get welfare or a government stimulus, or I don't know, food stamps, right? And it doesn't even have to be something like from the government. It could also be just some other help, right? Maybe like an allowance, right? If someone is very, very much dependent on some sort of assistance, what could they do to get themselves out of it? What could they do to actually show a level of independence and responsibility for their actions and for where they are?
Well, start taking responsibility right away. There isn't there's no reason to wait. Really, I mean, anybody can start immediately.
But
Kind of one
I
of
guess
yeah.
the better question to
Well,
ask is like, how does somebody motivate themselves to take action, right? How do they avoid like laziness and just like, well, I'm going to be complacent and just continue to take this assistance? How do they actually motivate themselves?
the good start is just to take the really honest look in its own life. That's something actually we should do every single day, no matter we are really responsible or we are not. They should be, like at the end of the day, or certain part of the week, we should kind of slow down our life and just look back and kind of meditate. Like, hey, like this is what I've done. This day or these past days. Like what I did right, what I did wrong, what I gotta fix, how I'm gonna do it, what my actions gonna be. I mean, all these things. That's pretty much a part of the Christian life. Because I do my thinking usually when I pray, and that meditation, talking to God. I really think about all these things because I mean, at the end, nobody. I don't want to say nobody is perfect. That's kind of cliche. I would say almost nobody is really good, not even good. Really, if we take that hard look on our own lives, I do myself, as I said, pretty much daily. Is always small things, definitely to improve. That is almost always even the big things, after every day. So, um, yeah, taking the hard, honest look on its own life, it's the greatest motivator.
Mhm.
Now, person, when he sees, like, hey, okay, I've done these horrible things, those things, so on and so on, then it's, two ways go from there. But the person decides like, okay, I gonna fix it up. This is really horrible. I mean, what the heck I'm doing? Life is too short to mess it up so many times and actually mess it up even for the other people. Because consequences for the own mistake usually transfers to the other people as well. After all, we are the people who are living together with the other people. So,
Right.
or, you got plan B, which a lot of people actually do too as well. It's like, yeah, well, screw it. I'm just gonna get drunk. Yeah, I'm just gonna go to the party. I, I'm not getting any better. I'm just a bad person, and they just keep going on with it.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
actually kind of it's like digging that hole even deeper,
Yeah. It does
getting more.
nothing to help anything because the
No,
problem
which
is
actually
still
makes it
there.
worse.
Yeah.
Makes it even worse because usually people get depressed and they just keep digging and digging deeper that hole.
Right.
The bottom line is, no matter how deep that hole is, there is always, every single time a way out of it. And it's not that very complicated to start taking responsibilities right away.
Right.
Look at your life, look what you're missing, decide what you want to fix, how you want to fix it, and then just start doing it. And if you fail, that's just fine. Everybody fails. I'm failing every day, and it's almost like depressing that at my age, I'm still making so many mistakes, same mistakes over and over and over. But just the point is, okay, well, you just hit the ground, face planted yourself, just okay, good. All right, get up and just try again. Just
Right.
don't give up.
But that's really good advice to again not give up so easily. Um, for some reason, you kind of reminded me of a discussion we actually had yesterday. We talked about people who kind of were drinking and trying these. Really, it's not even a solution, but it's something that a lot of people like to think is a solution. Um, and it kind of got me thinking about a discussion we had yesterday about like personal health. It seems like a lot of people uh, in their younger years they don't take responsibility for their personal health, um, and they end up uh, in really bad physical state when they're older. Sometimes I don't know, they don't keep good hygiene, and they end up having broken teeth or uh, something kind of wrong with their physical health. Um, if there's something you kind of want to add to that. um,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Whatever mistakes you do, the younger age, about these particular things like hygiene, not taking care of yourself, abusing substances, uh, you know, you're really, hurting your body. It might not gonna feel when you are young, but I guarantee you that it's gonna definitely feel when you get older. And as I said yesterday, not old, not, the 70, years old or something, like older, like people like in late 30s, early 40s. The fruits of this abuse gonna come out.
right.
And
And
at that point, it's very, very hard to fix those health issues. Very, very hard. It's definitely much easier to do it when you are young. It's because, there is more energy, body is still healthy. But that's why it's so important just to get to the groove right away, as young as is possible. I mean, preferably it
Right.
should be when the kids are small, right? But I mean, it can be done even like when you are in your 20s. I mean, sure, definitely, but it's definitely important to do it, to start doing it right away. Small steps, of course,
Right.
nobody's gonna expect, the giant leap and be from complete, trash bag to turn to the, to the choir boy. I'm not saying that, but definitely start making those steps. It definitely will pay off later on because once it's done, it's done. Kind of like a growing, uh, raising the kids. Well, once kids are out of the house, all the mistakes and everything which was done when the kids were raised, well, that's very hard to fix it up, right? At that point, since
Right.
kids are already gone, right? So then, when parents are crying like, "Oh, I did that mistake and that mistake," well, yeah, it happened. But the other thing is, you should think about, when you were actually having the kids at home, not now. Now it's too late to cry
Right.
about it.
While people, I guess maybe to clear up things, because you mentioned it earlier, while people can be, they can earn or push themselves to be more responsible uh, at any time in life, those actions, the
Mhm,
consequences of not being responsible, that's permanent. You can't undo that. You can't change
mhm,
that. Um, so while yeah, some people might get the solace of, well, I can be responsible at a later date. Yes, you can, but all these consequences are going to pile up, and that might be a lot for somebody to want to push themselves to be more responsible at a later date. So it
Well,
is
with
it,
that, so I stop you with that. Doesn't mean that there is going to be the chance that that person can fix those things in later day
right. I was going
or
to
later
get to
days.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Good. All right.
Yeah, when there's so many issues and struggles that pile up from these you know that resulted from these previous mistakes, yeah, it's going to be very, very hard to then all of a sudden like handle that and take on more responsibility. It's going to be very, very hard. So it is the best to take that responsibility on as soon as you can, rather
Hmm.
than later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a few more questions. So how does this one we kind of already answered, but just really quickly, how does responsibility tie into religion?
Well, being religious, and as I mentioned before in our previous podcast, it means being religious means actually I'm practicing religion. It's not just like, well, I believe in God and that's about it. Otherwise, I do my own things. I mean, I'm talking about like being religious, which means following
Living
what God wants us to.
actually a
Yeah,
Catholic
yeah,
life.
yeah. So that is actually a responsibility on its own because it comes with certain guidelines we are out to follow. And since we actually follow those guidelines, you know, through our life, that's actually Jesus discipline and it's just on its own. Not just by, I'm talking about right now about the God interventions, right? Just to following the guidelines. That is additional responsibility, uh, which actually, keeps us, kind of in check, give us, that self moral correction and kind of give us, a little bit of strength as well. I think definitely, with the other things. If I controlling myself, like I don't know, like for example, I'm fasting on a Fridays, and I don't eat the meat, you know, For example, that's self-control about the food helps me, I think, to control myself with the other, eating issues, which some people, they have, disorders like overeating, for example,
Right.
leading to obesity. So yeah, definitely. Now, secondary to that, and probably, well, most importantly, I mean, God does exist. And I definitely believe, in God's providence, God's invisible helping hand, so to say, and God is helping as well. So at the end, there is only so much we can do on our own. We do need God's help, not just only with what we're supposed to do, but we need His real help. We don't see it, but I guarantee you, we feel it. When God helps, we definitely feel it. We feel that load on our shoulder somehow is not as heavy as it used to be. And that's a God's help.
Yeah. We will have to wrap it up. So that will be it for this week. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to us and we may answer them in a future episode. We'd appreciate it if you could follow us on all social media. And until next week, thanks for listening. Take care and God bless.
And God bless you.